Okay, it looks like we're live for the Thursday afternoon session. There's April. The Thursday afternoon evening session of the
I'm going
Harley
to
we
mute
have in the
it.
background.
Mute
It's
it.
too good. It's a good closing. So this is the final week of the OpenFlip course, our P for Professional Educator. And we have April probably trying to live broadcast on the back of a Harley Davidson. And we have Benjamin reporting in.
Yep, I'm here.
And we have Christine. And Aaron will be joining us shortly. He's on a conference call, I believe. He said he'd be a few minutes late. So why don't we just kind of discuss where we want to go from here, since we're kind of wrapping up, and we had conversation with all four of us yesterday. Well, we see if we get Aaron or some other questions going in. Thoughts, Benjamin and Christine, while I try to click some links here. I need a producer for the show.
I actually read an article that you posted. There was a gentleman, of course I'm not going to remember his name, but he gave his 3 observations over time, like kind of like call them like what April used was the mind shifts of his teaching style. It shifted.
Right.
And one respect where to get away from lecturing, he kind of took it away, but then it faded back in, but with more dynamics. That short, brevity, sincerity and clarity, and just punch it out, short and sweet, and uses pieces of lecturing in the classroom, which I like that perspective, that it's not taboo to do it, but of course you do it with being really reflective on, is it best practices?
Right.
So I like to thinking.
Oh, Christine went robot there for a second. So that's the last link in the assigned links. That's a Robert Talbert link.
Yep.
If you haven't read Robert's work, definitely check it out. He writes a lot. So definitely check out Robert's work. He's also been heavily involved in flipped learning for years, and John also invited him as one of the research fellows for his new Flipped Learning Global Initiative, as well as my name's on there. I'm not sure my name's on there, but Robert's name and some other real cool people's names are there. But definitely follow Robert's work. I know Helene Marshall is there as well, who I work with on the Flipped Learning Network Board of Directors. The others I don't know, so I can't recommend, point them. I'm sure there's a reason John put them on the fellowship list. But Robert writes great stuff. Definitely you want to take a look. I think we talked about it a bit last time, because when I dive into Robert, it reminds me of me sometimes, where I kind of go, the pendulum swings too far, and I want to kind of micromanage what my students are learning and give them all sorts of path, and it starts to get too complex, and then you pull back and go, hey, wait a minute, I'm going too complex on this side, and then I want to pull back. And that's kind of what his post is about, where the pendulum swung too far, and then he's kind of taking the deep look between semesters or between summer, and thinking about it. So I really like that post for that reason. But if you notice in the beginning of the post, he says, in the previous article in this series, and then you can just start dialing back, he was writing in that specific location or that blog series for, I think, 6 or 7 years. So there's a whole bunch of resources there of what Robert was writing about. You definitely want to check that out. And so what are your thoughts in your experience with Flip, with April, and over this course, and your work with SPAL, and how you want to bring this forward? Christine?
Well, considering today was my last day at work, I'm not sure. No, but in terms of helping the teachers in the future, when I return, that reflective piece is key. For professional educators, and that time for collaboration, and that time to be reflective. And I think it's called micro-teaching. Where you videotape a short portion of your lesson, and then you reflect back on it with another colleague or two, and you just kind of like really pick it apart, but in a very professional and constructive way to help improve your teaching. So I would love to see that kind of take off and take hold for the professors at CELS, and value that process of being reflective and collaborative.
Excellent. So with the new position you're looking at going into in the fall, is it?
Where in the States or when I
Yeah.
return?
When you're going through to the States, is there an application looking there?
Well, when I go back to the States, I'm self-employed, and so I'm going back into my own business of reading intervention and tutoring, but on a reading intervention level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work at a private place as a consultant, and I come in and service students who are here and need to be here on grade level to bring them on or above grade level. So I'll be going back to my work and maybe teaching a creative writing course again at the community center, and maybe look at other avenues as well.
Okay.
You know, in addition to possibly future consultant work back at ESPOL.
Right. And I know there's a lot of teachers that I've talked with, especially here at the Tech, where they're teaching them what are basically remedial level courses for university, and they're really kind of grokking onto the possibilities, especially in terms of having students with different levels or different needs in the remedial course before they go on to their regular courses in university, and how to put that in a flipped learning perspective. So there's a lot of thoughts to think about.
Okay.
For that.
Yeah. No, I just kind of want to get our feet settled back in the States, and then look at other opportunities and branch out.
Okay. Cool. And you, Benjamin,
Good question.
in the break, you're finishing up today, tomorrow, and then planning a couple of weeks of vacation. So you should just put your toes in the sand.
Yeah, I should. But tomorrow we're going to finish up a 2-week intensive academic writing workshop for teachers at the university. And we'll have 2 weeks off. I'm going to try to finish an article I need to publish here, so I'm going to try to finish up that, and then we'll be back on the 18th of July with other courses that we have to take and give, and we'll start up with the students about 3 weeks later. But so things are kind of winding down, but still plenty of things to do.
Okay. Reflections on Flip over the summer and how that's going to change or I mean, you've done reflection on this before, I know.
Well, it's always like Christine brought up a lot of things that I've been thinking about here, and with regard to professional educators in the flipped classroom, I've been thinking a little bit about the Downey walk through, or 3-minute, what is it, 3-minute walk through or something like that, where basically supervisors go in periodically and they visit the classroom, but just for like 3 minutes. It's very brief, but they're throughout the semester they are frequently they're going by the classes more often and observing certain things, and in doing so they will have periodic not really conferences, but discussions with the teachers where they have these questions that presuppose different things. So they may say, when you were doing this and you were reflecting on this, how did this happen? And they start really generating this conversation. And I see opportunities there where if these reflective questions can be presented and be more transparent throughout the whole faculty, that I see certain opportunities there for teachers to open up their practice. It's not still clear in my mind exactly what this would look like, but it seems to me that it needs to be, like Christine also alluded to, creating videos and reflecting on that, maybe team teaching, maybe a combination of the supervisor walking through more periodically and having these informal conversations, and also having these informal conversations more transparent so other teachers can benefit from those, and really just figuring out a way to bring the strengths and the weaknesses of the faculty together for an overall common purpose, right? I mean, I think, focusing on both the strengths and the weaknesses, kind of rallying around team building and having those strengths brought forth and work towards some sort of common purpose at the team level, but also this idea of addressing certain weaknesses that staff might have or the department might have. And I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but there's a lot of things that I've been thinking about here just the last couple of days about how to really bring together professional educators in a way that they can most benefit from learning from each other.
Excellent.
Hey, Ben, this is April. Quick, we're getting ready to get back on the Harley. But question I had is, how do you plan on creating that environment? And I know Christine's going to be have the same question too. Do you have any suggestions, or can we brainstorm a little bit about how do you create that kind of environment where people feel safe, being able to open up and share, as opposed to, as teachers, we take things very personally. When someone says we have a weakness, we kind of, it's something that we're very proud of what we do. And, so how, or anybody can jump in here, what are some ideas that we can share to help, bring people being willing to take those risks?
I think a key part of it is, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is how are teachers evaluated? And how are they being evaluated? Because really, for better or for worse, that's in the back of their mind, right? So whatever that looks like, and if it's very, checklist-based or, whatever that looks like, that's going to influence how they go about experimenting, taking risks. And so if the administrators or the head of the department or whomever, the supervisors, are using more formative assessment, just as we would think, as we work with our students, if teacher evaluation is more formative than summative, and there aren't serious ramifications of, taking risks and sharing, maybe challenges, things maybe that didn't go well in their class, that if they leverage that and share that with their other colleagues, that they were actually awarded for that type of behavior, it seems to me that teachers would be more open to take those risks and to share those experiences. But I can't speak from experience because I haven't actually seen that in practice. So, maybe that's just a pipe dream. I don't know. But, it seems to me that it would look something along those lines, looking at teacher evaluation and maybe reconsidering the approach.
And I think you mentioned faculty or the administrators doing the kind of 3-minute walkthrough and visiting classrooms. I think it's really important as well for faculty to visit each other's classrooms. And to get over that shyness, maybe it's feeling part of the group is maybe hard, and having that opportunity to go in and watch other people and get over their fears and say, hey, well, these people are having the same problems I have every day, and I'm not alone. And then it's more likely they're not so stressed and going to have a heart attack when someone goes and visits their own classroom. Let me say hi to Aaron. Karen, can we hear you?
Yeah. Hey.
You jumped in the middle and you were just kind of watching out there. So.
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt, but hey,
cool.
everybody.
Good to hear from you. So it's Professional Educator Week this week for the topic, and Benjamin's. I'll introduce. We have Benjamin here. He's in Mexico with me as well. Not in the same city, not in the same university. Christine's reporting in from Ecuador. Both actually U.S. citizens working in other lands. April's on the back of a Harley apparently, and we've got Aaron up in Colorado. If I'm correct.
I'm in a car. I'm heading to my next meeting actually. That starts in about 45 minutes in a different part of town. So I'm not driving right now, but I will in a little bit.
Okay.
And actually, we'll be heading back to April's house later tonight. So
why don't we get your thoughts while you've got a couple minutes to talk, Aaron?
Sure.
On what's so important about professional educator and that pillar in the flipped classroom?
I think the biggest part of that for me is just finding your network of people who can support you and that you can glean resources from. Flipped is its own little tribe in education land, but it's not the only tribe. You should have obviously a network of people who are just like-minded with you philosophically, people who teach similar subject areas that you can bounce ideas off of. One of my first forays into education was becoming part of the AP chemistry community, and that was a huge just support structure for me, just to learn, and then but then also having people to not just share content with and ideas with, but you could even produce content with. There's people that use Google Hangouts to record lessons together and put that out there, and it's just great to be able to leverage the available technology that we have to expand our network in ways that we never were able to do so before.
Comments, Christine or Benjamin on that?
Children to help. I'll be right back.
How about you, Benjamin?
Yeah, I totally agree with Aaron. I think building your personal learning network and really trying to expand, in some cases beyond, maybe the faculty that you see face to face, but really, trying to seek out those that you feel that you can learn from, and that may include like-minded individuals, and it may even be, others who maybe share a different perspective, but that you see that there's still a benefit from having that connection. I think really, professional development at its core really is about understanding this awareness of one's personal learning network. I mean, we all have it, for better or for worse. It's not something that we create from zero. We all have a learning network. It's just a matter of understanding it and being able to use it to our advantage for a particular purpose at a particular time. So, I think, we haven't talked a lot about personal learning networks, but I think that that's at its core part of this pillar, I believe, that as far as being a professional educator.
I like the word Aaron used of tribe, and I think it's really important that it's a tribe and there's multiple tribes. We don't want it to be a cult even, because I struggle with the term flip. I mean, I've been in this for a while and talking to Aaron, talking to John.
You and me both. You and me both.
All of us, I think, and we get this label on us, and sometimes that helps, but sometimes that hurts, and I want to say, well, I'm not just that flipped guy. I'm doing open educational resources. I'm doing mastery-based learning. I'm doing students learning in the open. There's all these other things I'm doing, and I don't like getting peg-holed on that. But it's an important group to talk to, and I think it's really important to find the other tribes. Find your physics teachers, your physics teacher, and don't get cornered into, oh, here comes that flip guy again, and that's really important as well.
Flipper.
Yeah, when I do presentations to science teachers, I've got a slide and I kind of label all the little sub-tribes of science education. So I have my flip fanatics, I have the modeling mafia, I have the inquiry inquisition, I have the elitist empire, and I categorize them, and I put them up there because people know they get so kind of in their own little world that they forget to reach out and talk to others, and I just really encourage them to don't rule somebody out just because they fall into one of these categories and that's their main tribe, because we can all learn from each other, and you can't just do modeling for everything, you can't just do flip for everything, otherwise you're really limiting your exposure as as an educator.
And that ties back to what Christine was mentioning earlier, because I linked to one of the readings I linked this week was a Robert Talbert piece where he was kind of doing a reflecting on okay, well, I went kind of the pendulum swing of too far of no lecture and just prohibit lecture completely, and then he kind of swung back and said, well, there's points where it is kind of useful, and there's a bunch of tools in our toolkit, and I like the toolbox analogy of we need to have a full toolbox and know how to use it and keep reflecting and refilling that toolbox with different tools and throwing out some ones that are no longer useful, and do a lot of reflection and grow in our practice. And it's hard to get cornered in this.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest fallacies that we have in being a flipped educator is that people think that there's no reason for a lecture anymore, and that's so not true. JIT training is so lecture-driven, and formative assessments will drive your instruction. And there is a time to lead your class, and there's a time to follow.
I've got a question. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's in Spanish, so I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll translate. En ocasiones se confunde lo de flip class con dejar solo al estudiante para estudiar y o investigar y el maestro lo deja solo. So basically, sometimes people confuse flip class with the student basically just learns by himself and the teacher, doesn't really get involved. So that's from Marlene Ruiz. I want to shout out to her since she sent a question in via Twitter. So what's your thought on that?
My thought is that just sounds really sad to me. A teacher who doesn't want to interact with their students, I think, is in the wrong industry. And if you're using this as a way to do less work, I think that's a problem. I mean, it's not easy to flip your class. It does take a lot of work. But I think the goal for most of us is to use this as a technique so that you can get better interactions with your students in class, not just turning them loose. I mean, if I wanted students just working in cubicles, consuming content and doing clicktutorials, then I would just set up online learning modules. But that's not what I'm about.
Right. And I think the spirit more is there that And I still get this reaction where the students, even though I've got students saying how awesome that semester was, there's that one or two that says, oh, the teacher just makes me learn everything, and why am I spending all this money for this experience? So there's a perception issue sometimes that comes out of that as well, or perhaps your colleagues. And I think that is a legitimate fear of a lot of teachers.
Yeah. It's going to start raining here, so I'm actually going to go on mute because this car is going to get really loud really fast.
Okay, Aaron. Your thoughts there, Benjamin or Christine, on the question from Marlene?
Well, I think that this is April. I'm off the Harley now. So I think one of the the best ways, and with that misconception happens, even in my school, I've had teachers come and say, hey, April, come look at my classroom. I'm flipping it. And I said, okay, so I'll go and look. And there's like, the students are like, in groups, but they're themselves. The teachers, he was at the front desk. He or she, I should say, was at the front desk, and he was playing Angry Birds on his iPad. And I'm like, this is not the flipped classroom.
Right.
And he was like, he's like, oh, look at them. They're learning on their own. I'm like, no. You have to help them. You can't just like give them a book or shove the book to them and say, here, do it on your own. So I think that's.
And I think it's also not completely hovering either. It's not controlling, but not unlinked from them.
Right. Yeah. I don't think playing Angry Birds is. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
For me, when I think about the flipped classroom, I think about really just trying to help the transition from students being dependent to being independent until they're more interdependent, where they're actually relying on each other and helping each other. And what can I do as the educator to facilitate that process? And we mentioned this a little bit yesterday. Sometimes that means taking on a didactic role. Sometimes that's a facilitative role. Sometimes it's a coaching role. We all assume these different roles at any given moment for any given student. So it's really, for me, about teaching on demand. And being there and trying to create the most value when I have face-to-face time, because all my courses are face-to-face, although we have an online component. But it's trying to create as much value as possible when I'm with them, and and trying to assume the appropriate role for that particular moment at any given time.
Sorry, I hope that sound didn't come through for you. Another question, Marlene's coming through. So it's important to be in contact with other teachers to share what really is possible and not in flipped class. And so I'll be extreme and say everything's possible in flipped class, but I think I get what her point is, that this network is what we're talking about, having contact with other teachers. So many of us, and not just flipped class, so many of us are lone wolves that we discussed this yesterday with Ben, where we develop our PLN, we're talking to people, I'm having these great conversations with Ben and Christine and April, and we don't talk to the person that's just down the hall from us because we don't share what we're doing. And we feel isolated very often. So I think a lot of people, the online context gets rid of that isolation for them. Looks wonderful out there. April, are you going to get rained on as well?
Well, I'm a little bit north of Aaron, so no, I don't think so. But yeah, I thought I'd let you know that I actually do exist. So.
Excellent.
So yeah, I think not being alone is important, but I think finding the right kind of people is going to be important as well. And that's where, Ken, if you could talk a little bit about where the FLN is going, I really think that would be an invaluable resource for these people, for anyone listening to this.
So maybe I'll even screen share here in a second. So the Flipped Learning Network is the place to check out what's going on in the community of flipped learning. I'm going to share my screen here. Present to everyone. There we go. So if you go to, let me actually open the fliplearning.org website. It should load pretty quickly. This is the regular Flipped Learning Network website. This is what's happening right now. This is a great resource for checking out what's going on in flipped learning. For the definition, I've linked that for the course. But we're actually working on something, a rebranding, or maybe just a reworking of the Flipped Learning Network website. And what it's going to be is it's kind of a hub. There's going to be content there which is similar to what we have right now. But what we want to do is give a voice to educators and allow them to share what they're writing about. There's a lot of people, a lot of great people in this community that are sharing a lot of information, and I could point you to all their blogs. I could point you to April's blog, or Cheryl's blog, or Andrew's blog, or Brian's blog. But what we want to do is be able to have all of those people contributing to one central place where it's going to be a syndication of people's blogs. And that's what's going to be happening here. So there's a syndicated link here. This isn't really kind of official. It's going to be launched as well pretty soon, but you can find it. It's on the Internet Live. We also talk about the conference here. If you're interested in going to FlipCon in Texas, please register. It's coming up. And for me, it's really important to give other people the voice. Is that Christine loud? I'm going to mute Christine for a second. There we go. I think it's really important to give educators a voice and give different opinions and different views to everyone. To be able to maybe go into this type of hub and say, I'm interested in teachers that are writing about K-12, or I'm interested in teachers that are writing about physics, or perhaps professional education opportunities and how they're applying in these different domains. So for me, it's really important that we're giving different teachers different voices, and other teachers different voices to listen to. So that's one of the projects we're working on. And so thanks, April, for kind of plugging that. It's not really
Can I ask a quick question about the website? Do you primarily share by posting to blogs, or are there other ways of sharing, for example, a video component or audio?
So it's anything that's syndicatable. This is using the same setup I used for the course, Benjamin. Actually, I set the mechanics up, and then other people are making it pretty, because I'm bad at that. I'm really bad at making things look nice. But the mechanics is exactly what we're using. So basically anything that can be syndicated could be published out to there. What we'll do is if you want to write, and you can write from your own blog, just like on this course, and put it in a special category and say, push this to the Flip Learning Network hub. Or it could be syndication of Twitter. It could be syndication of anything that basically spits out RSS.
What about YouTube playlists?
Yeah, I want to look at how to syndicate the YouTube stuff there. So I'm going to work with Kelly and other people on the Flip Learning Network board on how to kind of share different types of media there. But I'm definitely would love to talk to you and others. Anyone who's interested in getting involved in this, hey, jump on board. The more, the merrier.
I think, Ken, one thing you mentioned there too is, like, I think it's really cool. Like, for me, I love learning from other disciplines. I think it's cool, like, listening to what happens in a physics classroom, or in a chemistry classroom, or in a a computer tech classroom, because just because it works in yours doesn't mean it can't work in mine. Now, it's going to look a little different, but there are great ideas nonetheless that you can actually use. And I think it's kind of narrow-minded if we say, oh, we're going to get into this little area with the English teachers, and we're only going to hang out here. I think we miss so many opportunities to see what other great teachers are doing doing that.
And the reason I like this kind of hub setup, Benjamin, is we could have people just publish directly on this site and like guest blogging. But I like the kind of syndication feed, because if someone sees, like, Benjamin pushed something about Flip Class and it showed up on our hub, and then they click through, it's going to give you credit, and it's going to say originally published here and link to your site like my setup does. And then they might go, oh, I really like what Benjamin writes about whatever else he's writing about. It could be even non-related to education, but kind of letting people grow their networks. That's what's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll definitely check out the site and see if there's a way I can contribute.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll get Christine blogging and pushing it out there as well. That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But it does tie into what the PLN, or the PLN
Absolutely does, yeah.
topic was for this week. So I didn't want to mention it. I didn't think about mentioning it, but April was. We were discussing that this morning, so I know that's fresh on her brain.
It is fresh on my brain, so sorry. I thought it was a good time to mention it.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if Aaron's checked it out at all, and I don't know if his car's too loud to even pitch in here.
He's probably just listening, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, no, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, it's really, really raining crazy hard right now. Like, these
Drive carefully. Drive carefully, Aaron. We're gonna wrap up here pretty soon, Aaron. So let me give you a minute or so just to say anything you want to say before we cut off. don't have an accident,
Sure,
please.
yeah, I'll do that so I can concentrate on my road, yeah. But yeah, no, the website's great. I love the new concept. I plan to, to contribute content and have it posted there. But I like the idea of it being a hub, just to share and to network, which is what the community's always been about. And that's really, I think that's what I'm most proud about with the work I've done around flipping is helping to foster a community of practice that is just filled with amazing educators, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it grow.
Excellent. Well, I'm
All
going
right,
to thank you, Aaron, before you
yeah,
disappear.
I'm gonna jump
thanks for your
off so
time.
I don't
Yeah.
get crashed. Thanks,
Don't
bye.
crash, my friend. Thank you
Yeah,
for your
right.
time, and we'll be seeing you soon.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Any other close thoughts from our flip?
Yeah,
Today?
I know we got talked in different paths tonight, but April asked that question, and a couple thoughts. I agree. I think what you said, Ken, about having colleagues do it with one another, the micro teaching and the observations and reflective feedback, because when it comes from your administrator, your evaluator, it's really difficult to take it as informal or reflective. Coming out as a consultant, you're in a different role. That's a great lead-in to facilitate that process. And really, for me, I always try to come out with, what would you like to gain from this process? Right. And so asking questions to the staff that you're working with gets them to buy into, well, we really want this, and that helps drive that process of being, okay, let's go in on it together and let's be reflective. I find when you ask questions, you tend to get a little more of an open door.
That's interesting. I've been doing a little bit of work with other schools on some training in flip and other topics, and I found it puts you in that interesting position where you have the trust of the teachers and then the trust of the administrators as well, and you can almost say what the administrators are going to say to the teachers and vice versa, but it removes this tension from the conversation, and you can kind of be the catalyst to open up that communication, and when you're in that position, I found that at least.
Yes.
So that's always fun. I get to meet some teachers on Saturday that are finishing a long course, and I participated with a part of it on the Flip Learning. So I'm looking forward to see them on Saturday and see if they're still excited about applying these concepts. Benjamin, final thoughts?
No, yeah, I think a formative assessment is really at the heart of teacher evaluation. I think that we need to work together, and I think the administrators need to see the value in posing these questions, as Christina mentioned. I think this is right on point and very much needed, so that teachers really feel that they have a voice, that they have a safe space that they can share their challenges and their goals, their individual goals, and that they have an environment where that can flourish.
Awesome. Yeah. And April?
Yep, I'm here.
I get to talk to you twice today. Final closing thoughts for this week?
I would say just the most important thing I would tell anybody is that I would encourage them to find a network, no matter where it is, in your building, outside of your building, online. Find other people, and like Sam Walton used to tell us when I worked for Walmart, he said, steal shamelessly, and that's what we need to do, because we're all in this boat together trying to make, do things with whatever is best for kids.
And as my friend Alan Levine would say, it's not stealing, because you're not taking it away from the other person. They still have the artifact. You're just borrowing and reapplying and reusing, and I love that thought as well, that it's not stealing, it's using. And that we could talk about Creative Commons now, but I'll wrap up for tonight. We'll leave that for another day.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sue, for everything. To both April, Aaron, and Ben, and Christine for joining us this evening. And that'll be a wrap up for this week. I will send out some information next week on I would like people, I try to cut this course short to only the 4 weeks in the intro, but traditionally we like to have kind of a wrap up at the end of the course. Write a blog post about what your thoughts are, record a video, some feedback on how we can change things here with the course, get people more involved. There's different levels that people want to be connected. We've had Benjamin and Christine almost every single time connected, and some others jumping in and out. And then there's others that just watch or connect via Twitter and send us comments like Marlene is right now. And so all of those types of interactions are great, and I'd love feedback of any type that you can send about the course. And with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you for participating in OpenFlip, and I'll hit the stop broadcast button.